Welcome back to NuWho Review. We are Farrar, Lewis,
Hi
and
there.
Alex.
Hi.
Just the three of us today, and we are talking about the final episode of the current season of Doctor Who, Death in Heaven. Yet another deceptive title from Moffat and Company, because there wasn't any real death except what had already happened, right?
There was a couple of sacrifices later in the episode, right?
Yeah, but that wasn't in heaven. That was... yeah, well. But then again, it wasn't really heaven
Wasn't
either.
really heaven, right?
Well, I have to say, it's difficult to evaluate a two-parter in two separate parts.
Right.
Although that's the way we're doing this. But I must say that after part one, I was really expecting something a little different than what we got in part two. I was a little disappointed with part two.
Yeah, they ratcheted up the anticipation, but I'll tell you this. I don't think a writer for television is going to get a whole lot of rewards from his superiors for finishing strong when it's really all about audience figures going in.
True.
So in other words, if you make high expectations and then you fail to meet them on the subsequent episode, that's actually better money-wise than having a weak beginning and a strong finish, because that means that the people are not going to be salivating as much about the ending. So I guess we're all kind of screwed.
Well, was anybody actually fooled at the very beginning when they had Jenna Coleman's name first in the credits and they had her eyes in the opening credit sequence?
No.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Well, it was pointed out to me as I was watching it with my other half, and she said, "Wait a minute, come on." And then when they went through that scene where she said, "Oh no, Claire never existed, I'm the Doctor," we kind of turned to each other and said, "Who do they think they're fooling here?"
Right. You know, there's all kinds of deceptions going on, like, well, that. And
Well, they took that quote out of context and put it in the trailer.
yeah.
In the first trailer.
In the first trailer where she said Clara never existed. And they just completely turned that into a hoax for the first few minutes of the show.
Yeah, well, between that and them trying to insinuate that Missy was really the evil female time lady, the Ronnie, instead of the Master, you know, there was all kinds of messing with the audience's head going on.
Well, the real reason that the Master is female now is because Stephen Moffat wanted to hire Michelle Gomez.
Yeah, and I don't have
there's no canonical reason for it.
I don't have a problem with that. I think
No.
she's fantastic.
No, she was great.
You know, I've got to say, an actor of that caliber, yeah, I would give her the part too, and I'm kind of sad that she got disintegrated. Or was she?
No way.
Well, there was.
No.
I saw a bunch of stuff that was saying that she's coming back.
Yeah,
but
she's
I don't-
already been hired.
Okay, so
Well,
that
that's
is
a shame.
legitimate.
That's a
Okay.
shame, because it means that the brig didn't get to kill her after all. After I was done clearing my eyes after the salute, I thought, wait, the Brigadier finally got to kill the bad guy, instead of the Doctor having to step in. It was the other way around now.
Yeah.
And there were some people who were upset that they tainted the Brigadier's legacy by having him be a Cyberman. And I was just like, hang on, what legacy?
It was a bit weird, but you know...
The only thing they did with him was have the other end of a phone call where they talked about him dying.
Yeah, and that wasn't a really good send-off either.
No, I think this was about the only proper send-off you could give him at this point.
It was a smarter send-off than that. That was a little touching, but this was a lot more without resorting to any cheesy CGI of his face. I was very happy they didn't go there.
Yeah.
I like the Doctor giving him a salute. I cried at that part.
Yeah, me too. I teared up.
That could have been badly handled, but it was actually very tastefully done.
Yeah, it was.
And especially considering the silliness of Danny's speech to the emotionless henchman before that.
I thought that was kind of
so
weird,
weird.
but I thought it was more for him.
Yeah.
I think because he knew he was it was his last going into battle.
Yeah.
So it was just the last cry of a
Yeah,
soldier.
he did that for himself.
Yeah, because I was like, this is kind of weird, but I was like, it makes sense for his character.
Yeah, I just kind of thought, does he know who he's actually talking to? Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he thinks that...
Well, you know what, though?
Maybe he thinks that there are others whose emotions have...
Right, if he and the brig resisted, there's no telling.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, the theory being that it's not just that the inhibitor wasn't working, but that if you have a strong enough will and force of personality, you can overcome whatever that programming is. And perhaps there were some other people there. I do wish, however, that this will be the last time that we will see the Cybermen as basically just henchmen. I miss having a cyber leader. I miss having someone to spar verbally with the Doctor.
Yeah, they haven't actually done that at all, really.
No, they've always been controlled by somebody else.
They've always been like a tool used by some evil villain.
What about in that one Christmas episode with David Tennant? It was like the Doctor or something with the lady who was.
Yeah, that was the next Doctor.
Yeah, I like that one. I mean, was that kind of the same thing as what you're all saying?
Well, because then they were a pawn of her.
Right.
But then I thought they ended up using her to, like, because she wanted, she was using them and they turned around and then used her and made her their king.
True, but there's no defined leader in this new series.
Right.
There's no cyber controller.
In the old series, they had a cyber controller or a cyber leader, depending on who was writing the episode, who was a Cyberman who somehow, and we don't know how, but was
upgraded just a little bit more.
Yeah, and therefore was in a position of authority above the other ones.
Oh, okay.
And it was never like Davros, where you had this ultimate creator, but there was always an authority figure that was ordering around his troops.
Right.
So
there wasn't that much of a hierarchy. It was pretty much just a bunch of Cybermen and then one cyber controller.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Okay.
Pretty simple way of doing it, actually. So kudos to Kit Pedler, I guess, came up with the idea.
Yeah, but Kit Pedler and Jerry Davis never actually had a cyber king.
I don't think you could have one because Cybermen, without actually having emotion, therefore would have no ambition.
Clara Oswald has never existed.
Identified.
I'm the Doctor.
Actually, when you think about it, the Cybermen, they were the original sketch of what became the Borg, I guess, in Star Trek. And the Borg never really had a leader either.
No. Not until they wrote one in the movie and kind of went off the rails. But
they kind of wiped out whatever pattern or organization they had.
All respect to Alice Krige. She's a fantastic actress.
She did great with what she was given, but
that was such a weird character.
It was supposed to be a hive mind, right? You can't make, I don't know.
They tried that with Lore. Lore decided that he was going to control the Borg, who were confused after having been infected.
Okay, so Trek actually went down the same path as Who. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like nobody can actually think of a hive mind and get it right for some reason.
No, not really.
It's difficult to depict.
They only got it right in the first couple of Borg episodes, which was the one with Q, and then The Best of Both Worlds.
Yeah, Best of Both Worlds was amazing.
Yeah. And that was the last time that we saw the single unified collective at work.
Yeah, and that was an interesting ending, too, that could be a Doctor Who ending, where it's not a big explosion. It's not a big American defeat of the enemy kind of ending. It's more of a I put them all to sleep is more of a very well thought out cerebral ending.
Well, at that time, the show had really well-established characters, and we ended on the note of Picard basically looking out and wondering what's next from the Borg.
Right, because you can't defeat them.
Right.
They're like ants.
The president. We don't want Americans bombing around the place. They'll only start praying.
Not the president of America, sir, the president of Earth.
There isn't one.
There is now.
The incursion protocols have been agreed internationally. In the event of full-scale invasion, an Earth president is inducted immediately with complete authority over every nation-state. Well, there was only one practical candidate.
Well, that's your answer for everything, isn't it? Vote for an idiot.
If you say so, Mr. President.
I like the fact that this was a season finale that did not have everything thrown at the wall.
True. Right. No end of the universe.
They were not afraid to do a story that was more about the emotions of the characters.
Right.
And less about the end of the universe as we know it, which seemed to be the go-to thing. I mean, how many times can you save the universe?
Right. And also, how high can you take the stakes? End of the universe, end of reality itself, end of time. I mean,
end of the Doctor.
Right. Exactly how far can you push it before it just becomes incomprehensible and ridiculous?
Yeah. What did we think of the resolution to Danny's character arc.
Pretty cool, I guess. I certainly appreciated the whole difficulty of him coming to terms with being a cyborg. That was well done.
For one, I was kind of sad to see him go.
Yeah.
Because I was looking forward to having him with a little more character development.
Yeah, although he never made it into the credits as a companion.
I guess that should have been my hint.
But is he really gone? I mean, I know we say he's gone because he had to make a choice and he made the choice to save the kid he killed. But I just, with how it ended with the doctor leaving and Clara and him both lying to each other to make the other one feel better, then Santa shows up. It was kind of like, you're both not happy. So I was like, okay, so is Santa gonna bring Danny back? Like it seems kind of cheesy and corny that maybe they would do that.
I hope they don't go there.
I mean, I would like it just to be done, but then it also raises the question: what about the grandson that we saw? The time traveler that we met.
There are a couple of possibilities there. One is that the whole "I need to tell you about something 3 months" thing, was that she was pregnant already.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
The other thing, which somebody mentioned, which made absolutely no sense at all, I can't remember who said this online, but somebody mentioned that she's going to end up adopting the kid. And I'm thinking, okay, that explains everything but the genetic coincidence of Orson Pink looking exactly like his great-grandfather.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to go with the pregnancy one. It fits, especially, with the references to her being a time traveler. The grandmother was a time traveler.
Well, not only that, but when she was in the TARDIS and the doctor said that she was a mess of hormones.
Mm-hmm. And that would certainly be a good reason for her to stop traveling with him, too.
Yeah, we saw what happened to the last TARDIS pregnancy. That was a disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he would probably want to stop that from happening ever again.
But let's talk about the kid, though, because I wonder how he was able to come back.
Yeah, that ending is very weird.
He had been dead for how many years?
Well, not only that.
They said a while. They said it was a while, but they said there was something to do with the bracelet. It was actually a teleport.
I'm not sure how it would regenerate the person's body, though. Yeah, that's the thing. I could understand that his consciousness had been uploaded into the Matrix slice.
Right.
But where they got the body from that looks just like him, I'm not quite sure.
Cyber pollen.
Yeah, that's right. He's a cyber
It's the
boy.
nanites.
He's a cyber boy.
The nanites.
I don't know how to explain it. I mean, how do you explain, them coming out of the graves with full-on armor?
Not only that.
So, I mean...
After Danny Pink blew himself up in a self-sacrifice, then where is he?
Gone, I guess.
Well,
except for his consciousness.
Is that Matrix hard drive still set up?
Well, they said that it was fading. Like, they all went back to that world. They were downloaded back, but then because Danny even says at the end of the episode, he says that we're all fading here. That this world is dying.
I see.
So he does say that, and then that's how the kid comes through the portal or whatever.
But I mean, think about that. The doctor's got that mess to clean up. Or did he? Did he get to clean that up? Mm-mm. With all that technology lying around. But then again, the master probably isn't dead, and she's probably gone back to her TARDIS. There's that big chunk of Gallifreyan technology sitting around, either in St. Paul's or inside her TARDIS, right?
I thought her TARDIS was St. Paul's.
Could have been inside of St. Paul's, displacing the interior.
Right. That's what I thought when they walked out the doors.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very clever, by the way, because we finally got a TARDIS that is not a blue box. Every blue box has become synonymous with TARDIS, and I'm a little bit tired of that.
Never usually has his TARDIS configured as a blue box,
nor did the
he's
meddling
trying to
monk
fake out the doctor.
The only Time Lord with a time capsule that is shaped like a police box is the Doctor.
Right.
So it would make perfect sense if the other people had functioning chameleon circuits.
Yeah. Didn't actually telegraph that very strongly. It just implied it.
But if the doctor doesn't go back and grab all the the TARDIS or the technology, UNIT probably did.
I doubt it. No, that was probably inside.
Torchwood got it.
That was probably inside of her TARDIS
gone.
because that.
I think so.
That W3 company was all I expect was all inside of her TARDIS.
This information is not proof. We require proof.
Speaking of Missy, when she says she chose Clara, chose her for what?
Yeah.
And how?
That's another dangling plot thread. But
wait, I missed that.
Well, I think what she was possibly referring to was her
in-
continued chess playing with Clara's life, guiding her toward the doctor.
It was in a previous episode.
Yeah.
It was one of those teases at the end of the episode where she just looked at the iPad with Clara on it and she says, "Oh, my Clara, I chose well." That was one of those throwaway things from earlier in the season.
Okay.
Well, you got Bells of St. John's where, via telephone, she guides Clara back to the doctor, right?
Well, and she was the woman in the shop.
She was
she
the woman in
was
the
the-
shop,
okay, so-
right? And then you've got Rings of Akahayden, that horrible episode from last season. That
Yeah, I didn't like that one.
yeah, that was junk.
I guess they didn't like it either because they completely reused the concept of the doctor offering up his memories in the time heist episode. But what I was thinking was, here's the only way that I can make it out that makes sense to me. And it's needlessly convoluted, which is classic Master,
Yeah.
because the Master always had needlessly convoluted plans. The Master wanted to give the Doctor an opportunity to come to the dark side. She had to get him to go to a certain place to do it. And so she chose a portion of the Doctor's timeline where the companion had more control. That companion is Clara. So she found out that Clara's weakness is in interpersonal relationships. She found out that Danny got killed by a bus, and so she picked Clara. I mean, she can travel through time, so it makes perfect sense that she could have seen that and said, "Okay, I'm gonna use her." We didn't see any of that. It all happened off screen, but that's the only thing that I can think of that would have made sense from her perspective.
That's a pretty good theory. Choose the companion with OCD.
And by the way, I am not going to miss having the companion say, "Do as you're told, Doctor."
Yeah.
I didn't
God,
like
I'm
that.
tired of that.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I am so tired of that.
Well, she would throw the line back at him because he would tell her that a lot, and so
Right.
she'd just throw it back at him.
But this time it actually worked.
He got the upper hand pretty handily in that last episode in Dark Water. But I'm really looking forward to seeing him break free and show what he's capable of without her holding him back and constant second guessing and trying to manipulate him. He's capable of more than that. I'm also looking forward, hopefully, to seeing this incarnation make less mistakes and be less confused. He's been very, very fallible in the last season, hasn't he?
Yeah. I think it's part of the new series, though. I think it's part of the new paradigm of the show being more about the companion and less about the Doctor. That's what Stephen Moffat is going for.
But, he's not going to be here forever either. And hopefully, under the reins of a new producer, we'll be able to see hopefully something better. I mean, in a way, it got better already with Capaldi hearkening back to a lot of classic Third Doctor and Fourth Doctor tropes, just because that's what he grew up with and that's what he wants to do. He's already demanding a console room that looks more like a classic console room.
He did that in his very first episode.
Is that going to be round
He said,
things?
"I used to have
The
round
round
things."
things.
Yeah. He used to have the roundels.
And he's
He wants them
demanding
back.
more roundels for next season.
What was that line? What are those things? No idea.
No idea.
Right.
What do they do? No idea.
By the way, I don't know if he's demanding it. He did answer a question in an interview that said if he had his druthers, I think he would prefer the classic console.
Well, they better listen to him.
Right. And the classic console, including, of course, the classic white gaffer's tape on the floor covering a mound of cables.
And a working time rotor, please. Is it too much to ask that we have something that goes up and down? Because, that's a thing.
Gallifrey is lost in another dimension.
Yes and no.
Meaning?
Yes, it's in another dimension. No, it's not lost.
It's kind of funny that everybody's criticizing Stephen Moffat for these couple of episodes because the previous episodes that he wrote for the show when he wasn't the showrunner are everybody's favorites.
Wow.
The girl in the fireplace.
Depends,
The Doctor dances.
He's
Didn't
occasionally capable of something really, really cool. Like
Did he do Blink or somebody else did Blink?
he did Blink, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He did Blink, and he did Listen this season, which was amazing meta episode, right?
No, it was great.
I liked it. I thought it was a real high point. And he wrote that, and he, I think, in doing so, proved that he can still write something really different and effective and sideways. And I'd like to see him leave the show just so he can write more stuff like that. So,
He's going to leave this show and end up writing 3 or 4 more other shows and not have much time for Doctor Who. That's what I'm afraid of.
I'm sure he'll make time occasionally. You know, I feel like he's probably not completely tapped out of ideas like Russell T Davies, who left the show and never looked back.
Yeah, well, he's got other projects too.
Yeah, well, Moffat has already said that he's going to concentrate on Sherlock. There you go. I don't know who's going to become the showrunner. Will it be Mark Gatiss?
I hope not.
Yeah.
Because Mark Gattis's scripts have been
uneven at best.
So,
right.
Talk about suspension of disbelief. There were times when I laughed during a lot of Mark Gattis's episodes that I'm pretty sure I was not supposed to laugh at.
Yeah, I'm not.
Like when we had
his heart's in the right place, but I'm not a fan of his
What
writing.
episodes did, like, give an example?
The Lazarus Project.
Lazarus Project, thank you.
Thank
in fact,
you.
didn't he actually play Dr. Lazarus too?
Yes, he did.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
Yeah, it
that.
was an
Mark
excuse
Gatiss
for Mark
is,
Gatiss to get his naked butt on TV.
Yeah, well, he's in the League of Gentlemen. He's a member. He's an actor. He's a comedic actor. And
but it was in that episode when they were talking about the fact that his DNA was unstable. And I thought, okay, DNA unstable, I can get that. What I can't get is that he would spontaneously mutate into a monster 5 times the size of a human. DNA doesn't do that. It doesn't create mass.
They took the werewolf theory.
Yeah, yes, the werewolf theory.
Depending on who you read, sometimes you have to, when you change into werewolf, you stay in the same mass. You have to be the same mass, but some not so true.
And they certainly didn't follow that with Tooth and Claw in Doctor Who, because the werewolf there was much larger.
Right, but I'm saying there's different theories with the werewolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't write that episode though.
No, but I was thinking in the Whoniverse, DNA has tremendous power.
Okay, let's see what's he written. He wrote Robin of Sherwood.
Cyber pollen.
Which, yeah, thank you.
Sorry, you said that.
The next time somebody asks me something that I can't explain, I'm going to say cyber pollen.
Yeah, just go with that.
He's written a lot of stuff for NuWho, and none of it has been exceptional. In fact, several of them have been really subpar. He wrote Robin of Sherwood, which I liked.
Yeah.
He wrote The Crimson Horror last season.
That could have been so much better. The Crimson Horror.
That's how I feel about a lot of
these. Check it out.
But that would have been better as like just the Doctor showing up in it and the ventures of the what's her name? I always forget her name. Ginny and her
Vastra.
wife. Yeah.
Madame Vastra.
Like the ventures of them, because I think they would have been far more entertaining than following the Doctor and Clara. And
honestly,
then them just showing up like it'd be like a Blink episode.
I honestly thought when I saw that episode that that was the launching point for a spinoff with that
would have been great.
It could have been. It should be.
Yeah,
it probably
I think
will
a
be
lot
eventually.
of people would love it.
Yeah.
All right, here's what else he wrote. He wrote Cold War, in which the Ice Warriors are completely underutilized.
Yeah.
Really, really wrong. He wrote Night Terrors.
Oh, that episode, that was actually when I decided to take a break from watching Doctor Who. I stopped watching that episode halfway through, and I just sat out the rest of the season.
I mean, his heart's in the right place, I'm sure, but he's given us a bunch of dreck, as far as I'm concerned.
I really have to say.
And I didn't like his Eccleston episode. I felt at the time, and a lot of people were really not jiving with me on this, but I felt that he wrote the Doctor wrong. He had the Doctor almost in a panic.
Yeah.
Doubting his own abilities and about to give up. And I was like, that's not the character.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm not too sure about having a bunch of fans running the show anymore.
Exactly, because they backtrack on old ideas.
Well, not only that, but
old ideas that don't live up to the old episodes.
Not only that,
the Ice
but
Warriors one, a case in point, that was complete.
But having fans can work too. Like Russell T Davies was a fan, and he was great. But then he also
he was occasionally great.
He brought in other writers.
He was occasionally great, but he was also occasionally horrible. I mean, remember Love and Monsters?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't like that one.
I think they need to hire some more television
professional writers, right?
Not Doctor Who writers, but television writers.
I think
because if you have a bunch of fans running the show, one fan is going to turn to the other and say, "That's great."
I think they need to hire more science fiction writers.
Yeah, definitely. This whole season has been more fantasy adventure than science fiction.
Right,
it has been.
Right. Dark fairy tale, I think.
And when they try to do science, they get it wrong.
He referred to it as dark fairy tale.
Right.
And
but there are already dark fairy tale shows on TV. We don't need any more, especially that are supposed to be for family viewing. If I want to watch Grimm,
Right. They're following a trend, though.
I will.
And is there an English equivalent to Grimm?
Probably, I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's called Doctor Who. So.
But this is the whole Christopher Nolan rolling around the world.
Yeah.
Everything has to be dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm a little bit tired of it. It's a little bit played out.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be dark now, especially a show that's supposed to be family entertainment.
True. Although some of my favorite decades of Doctor Who were dark or a bit dark, like the Philip Hinchcliffe era was very gothic. I like that whole era.
Horror doesn't necessarily have to be dark.
Well, you're talking about gritty, I guess, versus romantic horror.
Well, I'm talking about the fact that it wasn't just the horror. I'm talking about the fact that they had to make the relationships dark. They had to make the characters themselves dark.
Right. Do you have to have a character that's constantly doubting himself, acting in an emotionally unstable manner,
Well, and there's a time and a place for melodrama, and certainly Doctor Who has done melodrama well, but if it's melodrama between a couple of characters that are like the couple that's been together for 30 years only for the sake of the kids, and now the kids are gone, and you're just looking at the screen going, break up already, leave, go away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's at a certain point, that's how I felt about the Doctor and Clara. I'm like, why are you guys still there?
Why are you still there? Because of the Master, obviously.
Yeah.
So without the Master's influence, maybe he'll move on.
So maybe this series was the Master versus the fans.
I guess.
Well, so speaking of fans, everybody was really mad that Osgood died
Can someone please tell me why she was such a fantastic character?
I don't know.
Because everybody's going, don't kill Osgood, she's great.
She's a tribute to fandom because she cosplays.
Okay, and?
Wait,
That's it. I mean, think about it, though. She cosplays. She wears a Tom Baker scarf to work.
And then she meets number 11.
She wears a Matt Smith bow tie to work.
Right.
And she makes overt references to the doctors that she's read up on the unit dossier.
Right.
And
well, she's a nerd.
But apart from that,
right.
And that's
and she's a Doctor Who fan in the Doctor Who time stream.
So the reason people were upset was because they killed
one of
their
us.
surrogate.
Right. Yep.
I don't care about that.
I was like, maybe she's still alive.
I don't think.
I think it's about time we saw a villain kill someone in cold blood.
Yeah, and but they could always bring her back because did they ever really resolve her copy, her double?
Yeah, but the only problem is she's not going to be able to see because she left her glasses behind.
And Doctor and the Master stepped on them, right? But in Doctor Who, I guess nothing is ever permanent. Nothing. The show is completely amorphous and time is always in flux.
Right.
Nothing is ever permanent.
Which is kind
Except
of cool.
for Adric. Adric's permanently dead.
Oh, God. Thank goodness.
So we haven't discussed this, but I wanted to know, what did y'all think of the Cybermen flying?
Crap.
Iron Man.
I thought that was total
Yeah,
Iron
crap.
Man. Almost everything. Let's bring this up.
Nobody scrambled the fighters. There was no RAF.
But did anybody else notice? Okay, so when they lifted off the ground, they didn't fly like Iron Man flies. They flew like Rocketeer.
Right.
And I was like, how does that make sense?
I think
it's all
I don't
about.
care. I still think flying Cybermen are crap.
Well, I'm just stating is that they did it wrong anyway.
Yeah.
Because they were.
They have no rudder.
Localized rain in the cemeteries has resulted in what can only be described as disturbances to the soil. Extraordinary eyewitness accounts are claiming that silver creatures are climbing from the grave.
I remember being a little impressed that they ripped off one of my favorite Colin Bakers.
The Invasion.
Well, no. In Darkwater, they ripped off Revelation of the Daleks.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
The whole structure was ripped off of that.
Right.
Okay.
But, that's the setup. The denouement is like ripped off of several things.
Including the invasion.
But yes, also RoboCop. Good poignant stuff with Danny Pink, I gotta say. They chose the best parts of RoboCop.
Well, and the Cybermen in their new armor kind of look like RoboCop.
Yeah, the angst, right. And the angst of being trapped in a cyber conversion. I think that's great. Yeah. There's a lot of horror there to exploit and, a lot of ideas. But then they had to take it upon themselves to rip off Plan 9 from outer space. That's a bad move when you're ripping off Ed Wood. Plan 9 deals with a race of alien beings from outer space planning to take over the Earth by reanimating the dead.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the actual plot of Plan 9 from outer space, and that is exactly what the Master did in this episode.
Except this time, the Master wanted to give the Doctor an army. And apparently that's why we had to sit through 12 episodes of the Doctor going, Clara, am I a good man? What a waste.
Yeah.
Because we know he's not going to make that decision. He's the Doctor.
Right.
If he would make that decision, there is no show.
Tom Baker complained about this. You've got a character that basically cannot change because he's a hero. By definition, a two-dimensional character. But the modern thing for any writer that thinks he's very clever is to fake out the audience and make them think that the character is going to change for the worse, or he has to reverse on that decision, or it has to be a ploy. In Invasion of Time, they did it.
Been a while since I've seen that one.
Well, remember that the Doctor had to play it being a bad guy just to trap the Centaurans. Remember?
I've never really seen the Doctor though as a hero per se. I kind of always saw him as, for anime, most of your animes are like you're good and bad. They don't really have that. It's like you're good and bad they don't really, it's not black and white to them.
Right.
So you always warp that line. And I kind of feel like the Master and the Doctor are kind of like they're always on that line.
I kind of felt him to be...
Because the Doctor does kill.
They are more recently.
But the Doctor does kill. I mean... He has. I mean...
Yeah, but it's always for the greater good.
I have always thought of him as being kind of like Inspector Morse. Inspector Morse does his job not because he enjoys it. He's completely repulsed by it. He has to go and look at dead bodies. He goes to crime scenes. He has to study psychology of killers. But the reason he does it is because he's good at it. If not, somebody who's less good at it will end up doing the job and probably screwing it up. And these criminals will go free. That's kind of how I saw the Doctor, because he liked to complain about the fact that the Time Lords have the capability to stop evil in the universe, and they don't. They are content to sit and watch time unfold. And so he's the only one who's decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this. If it means that I'm an outcast among my own people, that's fine. There's this race out there, the human race. They've got so much potential, and I'm going to help them out. I didn't really think that it was because he was Superman, or because he could do no wrong.
Well, it depends on the writer. It really depends on the writer.
Well, like Genesis of the Daleks, for example.
Yeah.
He has a tremendous amount of doubt, and he's actually
he's a pawn of the Time Lords at that point.
He's saved from making that decision.
Right. But he's a pawn of the Time Lords. They intercepted him and transported him to Skaro. He had no choice in the matter.
This is true, but again, just like you were talking about, he remains a two-dimensional character because the writers made it such that he didn't have to make that choice.
No, true, but there's a lot of other episodes where he acts in a very overtly heroic manner, like, say, City of Death, for instance.
Right.
He's acting on the part of the human race. And Peter Capaldi's Doctor has just acknowledged that's his role, too. And he has to do it because he's good at it.
It wasn't rain, man scout. It was pollen. Cyber pollen.
Leaving apart the Christmas special, because we know that it involves Nick Frost, what would you guys like to see in the next season?
I'd like to see a couple of episodes where the Doctor travels alone. Like shortly after Hand of Fear in Tom Baker's era, we got, some great stuff. We got Deadly Assassin, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see the Doctor acting on his own and see how that pans out. That would be cool. That would be real different. After all this emphasis on the companions.
Possibly a male companion with no female.
Yeah,
I mean,
that would be cool.
I would like that, but I've heard they said they may not do that. I don't know if Moffat's still controlling it. He said it would only be couples, but I'm kind of done with that. I don't want a romantic,
Yeah,
it seems too easy, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I don't want that anymore, and that's not what the Doctor's all about. So, and then also I like more actual space, like, going to another planet. I don't mind Earth, but we've just been on Earth too long. So I'm ready.
Some more universe-spanning adventures. I'd love to see that. You know what else I'd like to see? If they've got the ability to render it, I'd like to see some more space opera. I would like to see something more like Frontier in Space, where you actually had an empire. The Doctor can get into a situation where he's acting at a high level with people that actually control a galactic empire, where he's not simply solving little personal problems between one or two people, but is acting on a much higher level. the modern fashion seems to be for him to act, on these little personal levels that people can relate to better, which is probably by design. But I miss the space opera, and there's a good place for it, and there's been some very successful franchises lately that pattern off of that, like Guardians of the Galaxy was grand space opera. Wouldn't you love to see the Doctor in a situation like that? That would be fun, and they can do it.
What I would like to see is, with this past season being such an emphasis on the Doctor's morality, I would like to see them go into a situation where that is no longer a factor. For example, in Star Trek, they had the mirror universe, where Captain Kirk and crew ended up in an alternate evil version of the Federation. I would like for the Doctor to end up in a parallel universe where the norms of society do not apply as we know them. And he can't act on behalf of good because he has to figure out what good is in that universe. Like you said, because he's such a two-dimensional character,
Wow,
because he always has to be the hero.
That's a cool idea, and I don't think the Doctor has ever gone there. They've never written a show, a Doctor Who show, where it was that old TV trope of the anti-universe.
Right. The only time they went into another universe was in E-Space, and everything was exactly the same.
Yeah, it was just green.
One thing I wanted to comment on was, okay, so in the earlier couple episodes, we kept hearing about, like, Promised Land and all this, and it kind of it was
fizzled.
What the heck happened to the robots of Sherwood?
Yeah, well, my thing was that they were all trying to find it, but they just had to die to go there. Like, because they say that the known as the I just thought I was like, okay, what did that just?
That seemed like a big cop out to me.
Was it just a misleading plot?
It was more audience teasing.
Yeah, I didn't like
without
that.
any end, without any.
No, because they just threw it in a line as the guy that went squee, that dude. The squee dude. I don't know his name. I just
Seb was good. He was well acted. He was a colorful character.
Yeah, the squee moment was
really
great.
good supporting actor.
Great. Yeah, again, he was another fan character. I guess that they.
I gotta say,
Missy loves killing fans of the Doctor.
Yeah, apparently.
Missy, the master, whatever you call yourself, I promise I'm much more useful to you alive.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. That is a good point. Well made. I'm proud of you, sister. But did I mention bananas? Thanks for being yummy.
I thought it was kind of funny, not only that they ended up standing in the middle of the coolest volcano ever, but it was all a dream. But I thought it was kind of funny that they took Peter Capaldi's doctor, Peter Capaldi, who was in the fires of Pompeii, they took his doctor to a volcano.
Cute.
And I thought, oh, well,
maybe that was
we've come full circle, haven't we?
They didn't follow up on that either. You know?
They said they were, but I don't know if they... Maybe if somebody else takes it, they'll do something with it.
Maybe.
At this point, I hate to say it, but I am not counting on any follow-through on absolutely anything I've seen, because it all just seems to be audience titillation.
Yeah, it's all about
they want to get us wondering
for the trailer.
They want to get us wondering what's going to happen next and talking about it to create a big buzz on the internet to get the viewer figures up.
Well, exactly. It's just like I said at the head end of this.
And it doesn't matter what happens next.
There's no financial reward for a good payoff.
Right.
There's none.
It doesn't matter what happens next as long as we watch.
You simply want to net the audience in to watch the second part of a two-parter, and then who cares?
Well, I really wasn't really excited about this season. Like, I really was just going to wait and watch them. As we've said earlier, that in passing, that most people are just sitting down to watch them all in one big span, and that's normally what I do, and that's what I was going to do, but then y'all asked me to do this. So...
Sorry.
But it was kind of... But no, it was nice because it made me excited for the show again.
Yeah.
And that was about... I really didn't have any excitement for it because I really didn't like Claire. I want her to go. I like Danny. I love Danny.
I'm looking forward to her being gone too. I want to see what he does without her influence.
I think the way they wrote this series rewards not binge watching it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they assume that we get that it happened off screen.
Right.
Between episodes. Like, for example, the fact that Danny and Clara had a couple of awkward dates, and then in the next episode, they've been together for a year.
Right.
I kind of felt robbed of watching that relationship develop.
And you had to figure that out. Like, they didn't really explain that very well.
No, it was a single line. I would have cared a lot more about Clara and Danny if I had actually seen their relationship develop on screen.
Right.
That didn't happen. They did the same thing with Clara and the Doctor when they had the big breakup, and then in the next episode, they simply talk about the fact that they had a conversation and they came to an agreement that they were going to have one last episode together. I really would have liked to see that resolution. The only two-parter we had this season was the last story, and apparently they're trying to make sure that you can jump in at any time.
Yeah.
And get what's going on. And I think that's kind of a shame, because that melodrama would mean a lot more to me if I could feel invested in those characters and if I had actually seen their relationships develop and I didn't have to just assume and fill in the blank with my own imagination between Saturdays.
Well, that's kind of funny because a friend of mine, she had missed Time Heist, and we wanted to watch the next episode. And I was like, you don't really need to. I was like, you're fine. Let's go on. I was like, there's not a lot of stuff going on in it. And she's like, really? I was like, no, there's no major plot. You're fine. So we watched that one, then we watched the following. But because she was like backed up. But it was you really could just jump into it.
Yeah.
Like you really didn't, because like I said, Time Heist was just a filler episode.
Also, a lot of recapping. I like Time Heist, though.
No, I did. I did like that one.
Yeah. Good season, I thought.
Overall.
Rough spots. Yeah.
What season of Doctor Who doesn't have a couple of rough episodes? At least they're not filling for time anymore. Inferno Part 7. All right, guys. Well, it's been a lot of fun. And
always hope for the future,
always. Or the past.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll do a real historical sometime soon.
I doubt it. It's always aliens.
I think they could be very clever if they did an actual historical.
Yeah, that would be a real fake out, wouldn't it? I mean, for it to not be aliens? I mean, they could get away with that with Capaldi's Doctor, too, because he could be assuming it was aliens, and it's not.
Yeah, and that would allow them to have the Doctor be wrong again.
Right.
Which they love. All right, guys. Thanks again, and I'll see you for the Christmas episode.
All right.